And Nietzsche's 18 truths will teach you how to find them and understand their deeper meaning. This is the skill no one teaches you, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. But don't expect a quick list of tips or surface-level advice. This video is a full breakdown, divided into 3 powerful parts. Each section builds on the last, and if you skip ahead, you'll miss the depth that makes this truly effective. So stay with me because, by the end of all 3 parts, you'll not only understand others better, but you'll understand yourself in ways you never expected. From a young age, we're conditioned to trust what people say. Words are our currency, our way of communication. But Nietzsche warned us not to be fooled by language. He said that people don't speak from truth. They speak from survival, ego, and fear. What you see on the surface is not the person, it's their armor. The person who seems overly kind may not be kind at all. They might be terrified of rejection. The one who appears strong could be crumbling beneath the surface, hoping no one notices. And here's the kicker: most people don't even know they're doing it. Most of us are actors in a play we didn't write. Our smiles, opinions, and tones are shaped by what keeps us safe. But here's the truth: most people aren't hiding from you, they're hiding from themselves. Nietzsche once said, "Every profound spirit needs a mask." He didn't mean it as an insult. He meant it as a warning: don't confuse the mask with the person. People leak the truth. Here's the truth no one tells you: people leak the truth all the time. Not in their words, but in the cracks, the moments they look away, the way they laugh a bit too long, the way they quickly change the subject when things get too close. Nietzsche's first psychological truth is this: everyone wears a mask to survive, not because they're fake, but because they're scared. In society, people create versions of themselves they hope will be accepted, but masks aren't perfect. They slip. The first sign of truth: tension. Watch for what makes someone uncomfortable. That's where the real person begins. The first truth: what they hate in others reveals what they're hiding. One of Nietzsche's sharpest insights was projection. When someone constantly mocks arrogance, they're often insecure about their own self-worth. If someone can't stop pointing out dishonesty in others, they might be hiding a truth they haven't faced. We hate in others what we're afraid to admit in ourselves. So, when you want to read someone, don't just look at what they admire, look at what they criticize and why. The second truth: silence reveals more than words. Nietzsche didn't believe that truth came from talking. In fact, he saw language as a tool used by the herd to avoid confronting reality. When someone pauses before answering, when they dodge certain topics, or when they give short, rehearsed replies to deep questions, that silence speaks louder than any words. A person avoiding vulnerability is revealing everything about what they fear. The third truth: excessive virtue often hides vanity. Be wary of the person who loudly proclaims their purity, the one who's always correcting others, always preaching. Nietzsche called this the will to power in disguise. Sometimes morality becomes a mask for superiority. The louder the virtue signal, the more likely there's something being hidden behind it. Real goodness doesn't need applause. The fourth truth: people don't lie to you, they lie to themselves. This one changes everything. The lies you hear from people: "I'm fine," "I'm over it," "I don't care," aren't lies meant to hurt you. They're lies people have rehearsed so often, they start believing them. Nietzsche understood self-deception not as evil, but as a defense, a way for people to keep functioning in a painful world. So when someone's story doesn't quite add up, don't assume they're trying to deceive you. Understand that they've been deceiving themselves for far longer, and that's what makes reading them possible. The inconsistencies, they reveal the truth. The fifth truth, where someone feels superior, they're hiding inferiority. This is pure Nietzsche. He believed that superiority is often overcompensation. If someone constantly reminds you of their accomplishments, they likely fear they're not enough. If someone puts others down casually, they might be terrified of being overlooked. Real confidence doesn't compete, it simply is. So if someone needs to dominate, control, or prove themselves, look deeper behind the throne. You'll often find a scared child wearing a crown. People aren't about judging. Reading people isn't about judging them. It's about understanding their core. When someone interrupts constantly, it's not always arrogance. It might be a fear of being forgotten. When someone posts obsessively about happiness, it could be a cry for help. When someone avoids eye contact while saying "I'm fine," listen to the body, not the words. Use these truths not to gain power, but to extend compassion. Because the more clearly you see someone, the less likely you are to hate them. That's Nietzsche's secret. He didn't want you to see through others so you could control them. He wanted you to see through them so you could stop being fooled and start connecting. And if you've ever looked at someone and felt like you were only seeing the surface, or if you've ever wished you could decode what's really going on beneath the mask, drop a comment below. Let's talk about those moments when people showed you the truth without saying a word. And if this video helped you see people differently, subscribe. There's much more coming, and you'll want to see the rest of Nietzsche's truths unfold. The truths behind human actions. Most actions are driven by unconscious fear. Ask yourself this: why does someone over-explain? Why do they dominate a conversation or disappear completely? Why do they say yes when they clearly mean no? The answer is simple: fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of humiliation, fear of failure. Nietzsche knew that humans rarely act from pure desire. Instead, we act from a deep fear of losing something, whether it's status, love, or self-worth. So when you want to read someone, stop focusing on what they say they want. Instead, ask yourself, what are they afraid of losing? That's where the truth lies. Criticism is a mirror. Next time someone constantly critiques others, listen closely. When someone criticizes too much, it's projection. The man who mocks emotional people might be terrified of his own feelings. The woman who belittles others for their appearance might be locked in a secret war with her reflection. Nietzsche said that judgment is almost never about the other person. It's always about the self. So when you hear repeated criticisms, don't be distracted by the target. Instead, trace the line back to the speaker. What part of themselves are they trying to disown? Projection isn't just a defense mechanism, it's a confession. If you listen carefully, it tells you exactly where someone's pain lies. False confidence hides guilt. There's a type of person you've probably met. Someone who seems overly sure of themselves, always in control, always composed. But watch them long enough, and you'll see the tension in their jaw, the way they overprepare, the defensiveness under pressure. Nietzsche observed this phenomenon in leaders, teachers, and preachers. Those who perform certainty because they're scared of being seen. When someone is chronically confident, look for the guilt they're trying to bury. Maybe it's something they regret. Maybe it's a version of themselves they're trying to prove wrong. Real peace doesn't perform. So when someone seems too confident, don't be intimidated. Be curious. Ask yourself, what are they trying to hide? Exaggeration reveals the hidden truth. This one is subtle but powerful. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. People betray themselves through exaggeration. Someone who constantly says, "I don't care what anyone thinks," probably cares deeply. Someone who claims, "I'm always happy," likely is. Exaggeration is a tell. It's the ego trying to drown out doubt. Nietzsche believed that extremism in any direction is a form of imbalance, not strength. So when someone's statements sound too absolute, don't believe the content. Read the insecurity underneath. Exaggeration is volume. The question is, what are they trying to silence? The desire for control masks inner chaos. We seek control everywhere, in our jobs, our relationships, our routines. But some people crave it to the point of obsession. And that's a sign of something deeper. When the inner world is disordered, the outer world must be managed obsessively. If someone micromanages every detail, if they can't handle change, if they dominate people to feel powerful, it's not because they're strong. It's because something inside them feels out of control. Instead of fearing the controlling person, see them for what they are. Someone terrified that the moment they let go, it will all fall apart. The stricter the outer shell, the more fragile the inner self. The louder the performance, the emptier the core. Look at social media today. The endless look at me energy, the perfect poses, the constant updates, the curated identities. Nietzsche didn't see this as strength. He saw it as desperation. When someone is constantly performing, it's because they don't believe they'll be seen or loved without it. So they create noise, color, drama. But the person who truly knows themselves doesn't need to be watched. They're already whole. So when someone's life looks like a performance, remember this. It's not a show of power. It's a whisper of need. Putting it together. By now, you're probably starting to feel it. The shift. You walk into a room and suddenly the patterns speak louder than the words. You see someone interrupting constantly and realize they're terrified of being forgotten. You see someone who boasts endlessly and sense their invisible wound. You're not reading minds. You're reading the mask. And Nietzsche gave you the flashlight. This isn't just a skill, it's a responsibility. Because once you learn to see people clearly, you can't unsee it. You'll begin to understand that most people are suffering quietly behind polished smiles. Reading people isn't about gaining leverage. It's about offering grace. When you see the child behind the critic, the fear behind the bully, the guilt behind the arrogance, you don't become weaker. You become unshakable. No one speaks from logic, they speak from pain. You might think that people are rational. You might believe they argue based on facts or make decisions based on reason. But Nietzsche believed otherwise. He saw that underneath every logical argument, there's an emotional wound. For example, someone might say, "I don't believe in love, it's just a fantasy." But listen closely, they're not stating a fact. They're protecting a pain. People form their views based on what hurt them, and then they justify those views with logic. So when you want to understand someone's worldview, don't just ask what they believe. Ask why they believe it. What broke them? What scared them? What do they never want to feel again? This changes everything. It shifts your focus from, why are they saying this, to what are they afraid of repeating? Suddenly, their opinions aren't threats, they're defenses. Their arguments aren't attacks, they're shields. And when you see that, you stop reacting. You start understanding. How someone reacts to weakness reveals their power. Want to truly see someone's character? Don't watch how they treat powerful people. Watch how they treat someone who can't fight back. Nietzsche believed that real strength isn't proven through domination. It's revealed through restraint. If someone mocks vulnerability, they're afraid of their own. If someone punishes mistakes, they likely weren't allowed to make any. If someone always wins but leaves others bleeding, they're still at war with themselves. But the person who can witness weakness without judgment, who can sit with sadness without running away, who can forgive what they could have punished, that's someone who is no longer ruled by the past. They don't need to prove anything because they've already won the inner war. So, if you want to read someone, give them a moment where compassion is an option. What they do in that moment will show you who they really are, not just who they pretend to be. When someone fears being forgotten, they chase attention. Have you ever met someone who always needs to be seen? Every room they enter, every story they tell, every outfit they wear screams, "Notice me." At first glance, it looks like confidence. But Nietzsche saw through it. He believed that the hunger for attention often comes from a deeper fear, the fear of being invisible, of being erased, of living and dying without leaving a mark. So people create noise because they love it, but deep down they can't bear the silence. The child who was ignored becomes the adult who overcompensates. Instead of asking for love directly, they demand it indirectly through performance, drama, or chaos. So when you see someone who seems too much, don't be quick to judge. Ask yourself, what are they afraid will happen if they're not enough? Because sometimes attention isn't vanity, it's a cry. The person they attack is often the person they envy. One of Nietzsche's boldest truths, and one of the hardest to admit, is this: people don't always attack because they hate. They often attack because they admire, but they feel they can never be. Criticism is easier than admiration. So, the person who tears down someone successful, who mocks someone confident, who gossips about someone free isn't just mean. They're in pain. Because to see someone embody a part of you that you've abandoned is to be reminded of what you've lost. So instead of celebrating the other, we destroy them. But envy is simply unspoken desire. It's the soul saying, "I want that too, but I don't believe I'm allowed." If you can see this in others, you become immune to petty hate. If you can see this in yourself, you become free. People act out their childhood, not their beliefs. We've all heard the saying, people don't change. But Nietzsche would say, people repeat. They repeat the roles they were forced to play, the fears they were taught to carry, and the dynamics they never escaped. A person who was never heard becomes someone who never listens. A person who was punished for expressing emotions becomes cold, logical, and detached. A person who had to earn love becomes someone who performs for affection, even when it's toxic. They think they're acting from beliefs, but really, they're just reenacting the past. So, if you want to read someone, don't just look at who they are. Ask who they had to be, because behavior is just biography. Behind every adult, there's a child still waiting to feel safe. Their patterns are a confession. This is the final truth, and it changes everything. People don't always know how to express what hurts, but they'll show you again and again through patterns. A person who ghosts when things get too close. A person who overworks to avoid stillness. A person who flirts with everyone but connects with no one. These aren't random behaviors. They're confessions. They're saying, this is how I protect myself. They're saying, this is where I was hurt. They're saying, this is what I fear repeating. Nietzsche believed that if you learn to listen deeply, not to words, but to patterns, you can hear the truth before it's spoken. And when you do, something amazing happens. You stop personalizing. You stop judging. You start understanding. You become a mirror, not a weapon. You become someone who sees and still chooses grace. And that, more than any tactic or trick, is what makes you powerful. You're not just reading people, you're remembering yourself. Reflection. Take a moment and reflect. Every truth we covered wasn't just about other people. It was about you, your own patterns, your own fears, your own childhood scripts. Because the more clearly you see others, the more clearly you see yourself. This isn't the end of the journey. It's the beginning of a new way of seeing. Nietzsche didn't just want us to observe. He wanted us to awaken. He wanted us to understand that everything we judge in others is something we carry. That everything we admire is something we long to embody. So, if you felt seen by this video, if you've recognized patterns in people or in yourself, don't keep it to yourself. Comment below, which of these 18 truths hit you the hardest? Let's build something honest together in a world full of masks. And if this video spoke to you, subscribe. This is just the beginning of learning to see what's hidden and becoming who you really are. When you start to truly see people, you realize that every behavior, every reaction, every word is tied to something deeper. Nietzsche believed that behind every belief, there is a wound, a personal history, a deep story that shapes the person's actions. People don't just behave out of the blue. Every action is a response to something they've experienced. To truly understand people, you must learn to read their wounds, not just their words. When you start to understand someone's behavior, it's not about judging them. It's about acknowledging the root cause, their struggles, their fears, their pain. These are the stories they carry with them, whether they acknowledge them or not. People don't want to be fixed. They want to be understood. A common mistake we make when trying to understand others is that we try to fix them. We believe that their pain can be solved with advice or solutions. But Nietzsche argued that the deeper truth is that people don't want to be fixed. They want to be understood. When someone is vulnerable with you, they're not asking for you to solve their problems. They're asking for your presence, your compassion, and your understanding. So, when you interact with others, don't just think about how you can fix things for them. Think about how you can simply listen and validate their experience. The struggle for identity and belonging. At the heart of many behaviors is the struggle for identity and belonging. Humans have an innate need to be seen, to be heard, and to feel like they belong. Nietzsche understood that this need was so powerful that it often drove people to perform false personas, masks they created to fit in, to be accepted. But when you see through these masks, you start to understand the pain beneath them. The person who craves attention is not just trying to be the center of the room. They're afraid of being invisible. The person who dominates conversations is not just arrogant. They're afraid of being ignored. Recognizing this gives you a profound understanding of human behavior. Instead of seeing these behaviors as flaws or annoyances, you can see them as cries for help, cries for recognition, cries for love. The role of envy and comparison. Envy is one of the most common emotions that people hide. We've all felt it, the feeling of wanting what someone else has, the longing for their success, their relationships, or their lifestyle. But Nietzsche warned that envy often hides something deeper. It's not just about desiring something. It's about feeling like you're not enough, like you're missing something essential that others have. When you understand envy in this way, it becomes easier to navigate relationships. When someone criticizes someone else harshly, it's not necessarily because they dislike them. Often, it's because they secretly wish they could be more like them. This understanding shifts your perspective from judgment to empathy, the power of self-awareness and acceptance. The final key to understanding people is self-awareness. The more you understand your own patterns, your own fears, and your own wounds, the better you'll be able to understand others. Nietzsche believed that self-awareness was crucial because, without it, we're blind to the ways we project our own pain onto others. When you truly accept yourself, when you stop fighting against your own flaws and wounds, you stop being triggered by the flaws and wounds of others. This is the true power of understanding, not just recognizing the pain in others, but accepting the pain in yourself as well. The final truth: we are all just trying to survive. At the end of the day, we're all just trying to survive. We put on masks, we perform, we project, we criticize, all because we are trying to protect ourselves. Nietzsche's philosophy isn't about condemning people for these behaviors. It's about understanding them. It's about seeing the deeper story beneath every action, every word, every choice. When you learn to read people in this way, you stop seeing them as enemies, competitors, or obstacles. You see them as fellow humans, struggling to survive in the same way you are. And with this understanding comes compassion, empathy, and connection. Reflection, embracing the journey of understanding. As you continue to explore the truths that Nietzsche shared with us, remember that this journey isn't just about understanding others. It's about understanding yourself. The more you see through the masks people wear, the more clearly you'll see your own. This journey requires patience. It requires a willingness to look beneath the surface and face the discomfort that comes with truly seeing. But once you begin to understand the hidden stories that drive people's actions, you'll never look at the world in the same way again. Remember, the more clearly you see others, the more clearly you see yourself. And as you embrace this understanding, you'll discover a deeper connection to the people around you, a connection built on empathy, compassion, and mutual respect. Closing thought. So, as you go forward, take a moment to reflect. Which of the truths from Nietzsche resonated most with you? Have you seen these patterns in yourself or others? And what are you going to do with this new understanding? Remember, the world is full of masks, but behind every mask, there's a person just trying to survive. The more we learn to see the truth behind the masks, the more we can connect with others in meaningful, compassionate ways. If this video opened your eyes, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. There's so much more to explore, and you won't want to miss what's coming next.